Okay, so I'm here yet again to talk about Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. As some of you guys may know, I already did a review video on this last week, the day the film came out. And let's just say I've had a lot of time since then to have the film sink in and to really think about some of the things and watch other people's reviews. Some reviews given really valid points that make me think, yes, okay, that makes sense. Other people absolutely shitting on it. I'm sorry for swearing, but there's one video in particular I watched that made me feel so angry. And even though I wanted to make this video anyway, watching this other YouTuber's video just made me even more inspired, determined, if you like, to just give Crimes of Grindelwald a fair, almost a fair trial, if you like. This YouTuber wasn't a massive Harry Potter fan. They don't even like the last few books. And yeah, they were just taking the mick out of the whole thing, and I just got so annoyed. If your only aim is to talk about something that's popular to be talked about for views and you don't really know what you're on about, then I say shut up. Anyway, that got a bit sassy, didn't it? I am a Harry Potter fan. I absolutely adore the books. I've been a fan since I was 10. I've seen all the films and, you know, I've got my own little thoughts about some of the films, but whatever. I am a fan of the whole Fantastic Beasts era. I was really excited for Crimes of Grindelwald, like I know a lot of you were. And yes, okay, coming away from the film the first time, I was just so excited, you know, and they came out with all these revelations and we just came out absolutely shook and stunned about all the stuff that they said in the film. Now, a week on, I'm starting to think, well, actually, okay, but what? You know, I don't want to hate on a film from a series or from a world that I love so much. There are a few things about Crimes of Grindelwald that really need to be cleared up. So yes, obviously, there's going to be spoilers in this. I'd also like to point out that this review video, unlike all the other review videos that I have seen, which are just based on their memories of what happened in the film, my review is actually based mainly on the screenplay. I've read this from cover to cover. I have made some notes. I have let every single scene sink in, every quote, everything that happens. I've let it all sink in bit by bit, and I've dissected it and thought about things that I feel I'm okay with and things that I'm not okay with, things that don't make sense and I'm hoping will make sense down the line. I'm not saying obviously that I'm more knowledgeable about the film than anyone else. I'm not saying that my review, the things I say, are going to be correct. I'm not saying I'm like this super fan who knows everything. That's not me. I'm just passionate about giving Crimes of Grindelwald a non-biased review with all of the bits in the film discussed and considered and all that stuff. That was the longest intro in the world. So yeah, I'm just going to get on with the video. Leave a like if you enjoy the video and subscribe to my channel if you're new, because I make videos every single week. This video is probably not going to get any views. It's not going to get nearly as many views as that other YouTuber or any other review videos, or probably even as many views as my first review video. I get that, and you know what, I don't really care. I just feel like I need to get my voice, my opinion out there. So yeah, let's get on with it. Where the film begins, it begins with Grindelwald escaping the Aurors, who are transporting him from Cusa to, I assume, London. They're escorting him anyway, and he manages to escape. When I first watched this scene, I loved it, and it was one of my favourite scenes in the whole film, and I thought there's nothing wrong with that clever use of Polyjuice Potion. By the end of the film I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of Polyjuice Potion used in this film. That's kind of a nice convenient thing. But on a closer inspection and, you know, reading the screenplay, I don't think Polyjuice Potion was being used. I don't know if Abernathy was always the one inside and the one who was being transported into the carriage as I initially thought. Basically, I'm confused about the whole thing. I still think it's a really brilliant intro and it's all really well done. There's lots of magic used, lots of magic. Very cleverly done, you know, it's really cool and it's a brilliant intro. Maybe J.K. Rowling will explain it down the line, I don't know. But either way, I'm accepting it for what it is. The second scene, we are with Newt. He's in London in the Ministry of Magic. We start off with this really close-up shot of Newt, and I've heard a lot of people complaining about that, you know, why is it so close up? It's a bit weird, but for me personally, why when we first see Newt Scamander on screen, I'm just like, oh yes, there's Newt Scamander, you know, he's the main guy kind of thing, and I don't care personally. The whole bit with Pickett and his button and the button rolling along the carpet, I think that's really cute. It's a really sweet scene. I love that Pickett is still a very useful character in the second Fantastic Beasts film. You know, it's not just like a first film thing. And then we see Leta Lestrange, and we find out that Leta Lestrange is getting married to Theseus. And you know, that's a bit weird because we thought that, you know, Newt and Leta were really close, and you know, obviously some things happened between them which meant that they weren't together, but it was highly emphasised in the first film that, you know, they had a really strong relationship. It's also emphasised in this scene that they had a really strong relationship, and why they don't now, we don't know. And you know, it's a bit weird she's getting married to Theseus. Maybe it's just to make Newt jealous. I don't know. I do think that Leta has stronger feelings for Newt than Newt does for Leta, especially since Tina comes around and it's like, well, he's actually more interested in Tina now. So they go into this hearing. He's having a hearing to try and get his travelling ban lifted. He's banned from travelling after what happened in America in the first film. And they're basically like, well, we'll lift your ban if you become an aura and, you know, you try and kill Credence. Because we all know that Grindelwald's after Credence, but Newt isn't interested. He doesn't want to pick sides, you know, that's the thing. Theseus says there is going to be a time when you're going to have to pick sides. You know, Newt doesn't want to pick sides. Newt just wants to be with his magical creatures. He declines. Grimson comes into the scene and he's like, well, I guess the job's mine then. Newt is very angry about this, and I didn't know in the film why Newt was so angry about Grimson. I didn't know who Grimson was. I didn't look up these characters before I watched the film because, you know, I thought that might be like spoilers. From reading the screenplay, there's a nice little note in the screenplay that says that he's actually a beast hunter, which explains why Newt doesn't like him. Theseus, I guess, kind of wants Newt back in his life, but Newt doesn't really want to know. I guess because he's with Leta. I don't know. So yeah, there's that. I have no issue with that scene. That's fine for me. Other people are also complaining about a little cleaning machine that they have, and like elves cleaning. Think, well, why do you need that? It's magic. And I don't care. The next scene is with Grindelwald. He's in Paris and he is taking over this house. We don't actually know if they're magical or non-magical people, but I'm assuming that they are non-magical people. They get murdered and they get carried out in coffins, and Grindelwald has his little hideout. This is where things start getting dark in the film. We hear a child crying or making a noise, and they go in, they find this little child, and at first I'm thinking, no, he's not going to kill him, is he? He's not going to kill that little child. He looks at him and then he walks away, and then you see the flash of green light, which means they've killed the child. My first reaction was like, oh my gosh, he's actually killed the child. Or, you know, one of his acolytes had killed him. But yeah, at first I was shocked about the child being murdered, but then I thought, this is brilliant. Because, you know, this just goes to show how dark this film is and how dark this series could get. It shows Harry Potter fans, mainly, that this is no longer a story about a boy wizard. This is no longer a story aimed at children. This is aimed, I feel, this whole series is aimed at the people who were originally into Harry Potter. This series is more for adults. The story about a boy wizard is gone. Not to be compared to Harry Potter, and I'll get more on that later. We get back to London, to Newt. Newt is being followed. He manages to get away from them, and then he sees this magical hand, this magical gloved hand, who points him in the direction to where ultimately Dumbledore is. That's a really cool piece of magic. I think that's really cool and really funky, and it shows how cool and laid back Dumbledore was back in the day. I mean, you see a bit of that in his later life, but it just goes to show how cool he was back in the 20s. At first, watching the film and seeing the trailers and all that, I had no problems with Dumbledore, with Jude Law playing Dumbledore. I thought, you know, he does it brilliantly. I didn't realise how much of a concern it was about his appearance until I read the screenplay, because there's a sentence in the screenplay when we first see Dumbledore on screen where it says he's described as having greying auburn hair and beard. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, yes, that's what's missing from Dumbledore. He should have a beard. Not a long one like we know Dumbledore to have, but that's the point. When we think of Dumbledore, we think of this man with this beard. We see a bearded man. I just feel like Jude Law should have had a bit of a beard, you know, just a short one. I mean, it's fine the way he looks. He looks fine without a beard, you know, I'm cool with it, but I personally think it just made it a bit more like Dumbledore. We find out that Dumbledore told Newt about the trafficked Thunderbird to get him to America to set it free. Whether or not he wanted Newt to go to America just so he could discover Credence, Like maybe he knew Credence was over there, or at least there was an Obscurus over in America, maybe to help the Obscurus, because maybe he knew about the Obscurus, he found the little girl he found, and maybe he thought, oh, Newt can help this Obscurus. And he used the whole Thunderbird go to America just so he can find the Obscurus. Maybe, I don't know. Dumbledore also wants Newt to go to Paris because he knows that's where Credence is, and he wants Newt to find Credence, which also makes me think that's why he wanted Newt to go to America in the first one. He wants him to go after Credence to rescue him, to stop him from going to Grindelwald's side, because Dumbledore knows that Grindelwald is also after him. Newt asks, why can't you go? And Dumbledore just says, I can't move against Grindelwald. And at this time, specifically all of the Harry Potter fans would know why. Oh, that's because he was in love with him. We found out in Deathly Hallows that Dumbledore was close to Grindelwald and that perhaps he was in love with him. You know, without the whole blood oath thing, I just think that makes sense on its own. Like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. He's in love with Grindelwald. He's heartbroken over the fact that of how Grindelwald has become, and we find that out more later on in the film. But yeah, he just says he can't move against him, it has to be you. So yeah, Dumbledore gives him a ticket. It's a ticket to Paris. Dumbledore's a bit manipulative here. I can't say that word. Newt says no, but he still manages to give him the card anyway, and he's just like, yeah, you'll do it anyway. There's this really nice quote Dumbledore says, the thing I admire about you, Newt, more perhaps than anyone else. It's something like, you will do what's right, even if it means breaking the rules. And we saw that in the first film, you know, he broke the rules by travelling with magical beasts, but he did it anyway because it was the right thing to do. And so that's why he wanted Newt, I suppose, because he knew that regardless of whether or not it was right or wrong against the law, because, you know, he's banned from travelling, he'll do it anyway because he knows it's the right thing to do. Newt goes home. We find these little baby Nifflers. We knew that baby Nifflers were going to be in it, and Noble Collection have already sold baby Nifflers. They're only on for a short period of time, but it's a really cute little thing. My kind of thought with that is it's a bit of a cash grab. Cute little things that they can sell for people to have little plushies of little baby Nifflers, and I'm going to get more on that throughout the video as well, but of course it is. It's kind of what we want, you know? A lot of people were so ecstatically happy about the release of the first images of the baby Nifflers, and it's like, oh, there's going to be baby Nifflers in the film, and then everywhere people are selling baby Niffler plushies and things, and people are like, oh, this is so cute, I love this, I want this, you know? And you think, well, yeah, they're only doing it to make a bit of money, but also people are happy about it, people are enjoying this thing, so is that such a bad thing? Kind of reminds me of a few things Luna Diaries said in her video. Yeah, at the end of the day, it just makes people happy. So yeah, maybe like, give me your money, but we're also like, take my money, you know? Anyway, we go down to Newt's basement. He has a massive basement, obviously magically massive. We see all of these magical beasts, like an augury. We see a kelpie, a kappa, obviously the baby Nifflers, the bold truckles, all of these magical creatures. And it's like, you get that same kind of feeling you get when you go into Newt's briefcase in the first film, like all of these magical creatures. This is really cool. I love it. It's what I love about the Fantastic Beasts films, that you see all of these magical creatures that are mentioned in the Harry Potter books, but you don't actually see on screen, and now finally we're seeing them on screen. We meet Bunty. She is basically a helper for Newt, you know. She is basically there to show that Newt is leaving his magical creatures with someone who's looking after them. There's also the little bit of comedy with the fact that Bunty seems to be desperately in love with Newt. Battery died, so yeah, Bunty, hopelessly in love with Newt. Newt doesn't realise, and this is just such a beautiful thing about Newt, is that he's completely oblivious to things like this. He doesn't realise that Bunty's into him. There's that scene where she's like, perhaps you should take your shirt off, and he's like, no, I'll dry off anyway. Like, he has no idea that Bunty's in love with him, and that's just so funny. It's so funny. There's this scene where Newt is riding on the kelpie, and they're trying to give him eye drops, was it, or something? The kelpie looks really cool, and again, like I said, it's something that we heard about in the books, but now we're seeing it on screen, and it's really fun. I will admit, the trailers did make it look like this was going to be a massive scene, like a massive important scene, but it actually isn't. It's just like a little setting the scene kind of thing. Like I said, any excuse to see some magical creatures on screen I'm happy with. So Queenie and Jacob turn up. Newt is instantly like, oh, is Tina here? But she's not. Queenie has enchanted Jacob. She says, oh, we're engaged, we're going to get married, and the whole reason they come to the UK I suppose, is because, as Queenie says, they're a bit more lenient over here. They left America so that they could get married, and I think maybe Queenie and Tina had a little falling out because she wasn't okay with it. Jacob is released from the spell. He and Queenie have this little tiff. She runs off to Paris. Their relationship is it's a heartbreaking one, isn't it? All Queenie wants is to get married and have kids, have a family, like everyone else does. That's all she wants, and she can't do that in America. They're not allowed. The conversation between Jacob and Newt about Tina, where Newt's like, her eyes are like a salamander, and Newt's like, no, you can't say that. Don't mention no salamanders. They find out she's in Paris, and they go to Paris as well. In the magazine where it says that Newt is getting engaged to Lita, when it's clearly Theseus, and you think, well, Theseus is a more known and liked person, isn't he? That like they wouldn't make that kind of mistake. And that's only in there so that there could be more tension between Tina and Newt. But I like that. I do like that because it means that they don't get together straight away, and it's another film we have to wait until they maybe get together. We've always known the Newt and Tina get together, it's just how they get together. It's kind of like a Ross and Rachel kind of situation, you know, Ross and Rachel were friends. Will they? Won't they? There's always things getting in the way. But also it's not emphasised on that being like an important part of the film, because it's not. It's just like a little side plot kind of thing. Will Newt and Tina get together? It's not the most important thing, and I love that because it's not a love story. One of the things I hate the most about the Half-Blood Prince film is how emphasised Ron's relationship with Hermione is, and you know, him going out with Lavender, you know, how big a deal that was made, whereas in the book it's actually like a little side thing like this is. The next major scene, we're in Paris with Tina. She is looking for the circus, I guess because she knows that Credence has joined this circus. Originally I did think that Credence had joined this circus as part of the entertainment, you know, he's an obscurus, but it turns out he's just working there. He meets Nagini, they seem to have this close relationship, and that's really cute. Nagini, by the way, the whole revelation that Nagini was a Maledictus and she'll turn into a snake and she'll eventually become Voldemort's snake. Apart from that, she doesn't really have any kind of use in this film. She's kind of pointless. It's like, why are we finding out about this Maledictus now? Unless she has an important role later on, which is what I'm hoping. Maybe we will find out why she turns to Voldemort. There is this theory that Nagini is secretly Voldemort's mother, but we know who Voldemort's mother is, so I don't know. Maybe Voldemort might appear at the end of this because it's supposed to finish at 1945. But she's a really sweet character, you know, she's there as a comfort to Credence, you know, she's Credence's friend, maybe even more. Don't know. So yeah, that's cool, that's fine with me. You know, she also hardly ever speaks. She's a very quiet person. Anyway, back to the film. Credence thinks he has found his mother, and they say that they're going to leave tonight. She turns into her snake form and she attacks Skender. He's the lead circus guy. The Zulu escapes and causes a lot of havoc. So do some fire drakes. They're those little fiery flying things. I didn't know what they were called until I read the screenplay. Anyway, the circus gets packed up, and you know, it's all clever how it's just all packed up into little boxes and they're gone. Paris is done for us now. Karma's there as well. Karma and Tina talk. They find out that they're both after Credence. Credence wants to know who he really is. Tina, I guess, would like to help Credence find out who he really is. And Karma already thinks he knows who Credence is, and he has made an unbreakable vow, we find out later, with his father that he will murder the person that this Lestrange man, Corvus Senior, I think, they will murder the person that he loves the most, and you know, Karma thinks that's Credence and that's why he wants to murder him. I think Tina gets trapped in this like cave thing where they have like the Lestrange family tree on the wall. We kind of see that more in a trailer. Tina obviously already knew about the theories that this prediction in this book was made for Credence. The predictions of Tycho Dodonus. We go back to Grindelwald in his hideout, and he says to his acolytes he wants Credence to join him. It has to be his choice. He has to want to. And the reason he wants Credence is because Credence is the only person who has the power to get rid of Dumbledore. Because obviously Grindelwald also knows that he can't move against Dumbledore because of this blood oath they made. Back to Newt and Jacob. They get to Paris by use of a port key. That is something I was always interested about. Whenever I thought about magical people travelling to other countries, I always thought, well, can they just apparate? Can they use a port key? Can they fly to another country? Do they need passports? You know, do they have the same kind of regulations and protections against the country that muggles do? So they go to this place where the Circus Arcanus was, but basically using magic to figure out what happened the day before. Yeah, it's interesting how they can do that, but I guess Newt needed to find out where Tina was, and this was a really cool way to do that. But it explains why he took the Niffler with him, because apparently Nifflers can do this thing, whatever the Niffler was doing. But yeah, he finds out what happened with the circus, he finds out about the Zuu escaping, and that Tina was there, and that Karma was there talking to Tina. I am doing this in film order, in scene order. We go back to Queenie. She's at the French Ministry of Magic. She wants to find her sister. She thinks that as her sister's an aura, she's obviously enrolled there, but they say she's not. And then she goes outside, she thinks she hears Jacob and Newt, she's running after them, she can't find them, and then she collapses on the ground and starts kind of crying. And there's this really nice line in the screenplay. It says, exhausted and lonely, Queenie drops down to the curb in the rain, defeated by the clamour of the thoughts of those in the crowd around her. I really liked that line. It explains something that we wouldn't have necessarily known just by watching the film, and that's another good reason why to read the screenplay, by the way, because they have these little things in there that aren't actually explained in the film, and it kind of makes things make more sense. I'm sorry this is confusing, but like I said, it's in film order. Then we switch back to Credence and Nagini, who have found Irma, who is a half-elf. She says that she's not his mother. She was the one that took him to Mrs. Barebone because she thought that she'd look after him, but obviously we know she didn't. Grimson appears. He kills Irma. Credence transforms into an Oscurus and he tries to attack Grimson, but Grimson has put this shield over him so he can't. Grimson disapparates, meets up with Grindelwald, tells him that Irma's dead. This was their plan all along. Then we go back to Newt and Jacob, who are at the cafe. They have managed to track down Karma using his feather. That's a really cool thing to do, really cool piece of magic. Karma takes them to where Tina is, tries to trap them, but this little tentacle thing in his eye makes him go unconscious. There's Newt and Tina, they're reunited again. They're talking and then they hear sounds above. It's the Zuu, and Newt very cleverly manages to trap the Zuu in his suitcase. Yeah, again, that's a really fun scene. Then the next scene is the scene where we get to Hogwarts. Okay, this is where I start having issues, proper issues, with the film. We start off, we're at Hogwarts, there's this whole montage bit with original Harry Potter music. When I first experienced this, I thought, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Original Harry Potter music as well. It's like, oh my gosh, we're back. Nostalgic and all this stuff. Once it all sunk in and looked back at that scene, I kind of thought, why did they do that? This isn't a Harry Potter film anymore, and it's kind of like they're doing so many, I guess, nostalgia grabs, because like I said, it was very nostalgic. But then if you think about it, what was the one thing we always wanted? When thinking about these films, we always wanted to go back to Hogwarts. As soon as we saw the first trailer, going over the mountains and seeing Hogwarts, we were all absolutely ecstatic. We all begged J.K. Rowling to go back to Hogwarts. We wanted to go back to Hogwarts. So yeah, it may be a bit of a nostalgia grab, but at the same time, it's what we wanted. It's what the fans wanted. So should we really be complaining to the filmmakers, to J.K. Rowling, about all of these nostalgia bits, all of these nods to Harry Potter, when it's what we wanted? We wanted so badly these films to be connected to Harry Potter that when it happens, other people are complaining about it. So yeah, I feel like we don't really have any right to complain about it, because when I first saw the trailer, I even did a video on it when I first saw the trailer, and we see Hogwarts, I was so happy about it, and so were so many other people, you know. But yeah, that's not the biggest issue about the whole Hogwarts scene bit. One of the two biggest issues is that Dumbledore is teaching Defence Against the Dark Arts. We knew this from an earlier trailer as well. I just thought, well, maybe he was filling in for another teacher. You know, those people saying, just wait until the film, it'll be revealed in the film, it'll be explained in the film. It's not explained in the film. He's actually the Defence Against the Dark Arts teacher. Then when the moment when Travers put those ring cuffs over Dumbledore's wrists, saying that they'll track every spell he does, he'll be watched more, and then he said that he'll no longer be able to teach Defence Against the Dark Arts. That's when I thought, oh, so that's why he switches to Transfiguration, and he becomes the Transfiguration teacher because he can't teach Defence Against the Dark Arts. But then at the end of the film, it's all forgiven. So does he go back to teaching D.A.D.A.? J.K. Rowling, please explain this. That's an annoying thing, but not as annoying as the whole McGonagall thing. And I think we can all agree on this. This is the biggest, most annoying thing about the whole film, is the fact that Minerva McGonagall is in it. At first, you know, they only say McGonagall, so you think, oh, maybe it's a relative, maybe it's her mother or something. But she's actually listed as Minerva McGonagall in the credits. It is Minerva McGonagall. And, you know, if you don't know why this is such a big issue, it's because she's not supposed to be born yet. And yeah, she was in Lita's flashbacks as well. It didn't even need to happen. They could have just made up any other teacher's name and it wouldn't have mattered, because it's not like she's an important character in the film either. You know, she's only there for that one moment. It just annoys me. Anyway, so they question Dumbledore about Newt being in Paris, and they think that Dumbledore was the one that sent him there. They ask him to fight Grindelwald. He says he can't. They show younger pictures of Dumbledore and Grindelwald being really close when they were younger. Also, nice little nod to the fact that they had the same actors play young Grindelwald and Dumbledore as they did in Deathly Hallows. That was quite cool. And yeah, they're just like, well, then you've picked a side. You won't fight against him. That must inevitably mean that you're on his side. There's also a part where Dumbledore goes to the Mirror of Erised, which is in the Room of Requirement. I didn't know it was in the Room of Requirement until reading the screenplay. But yeah, it's meant to be the Room of Requirement, which is quite cool. Actually, no, I do have a complaint about that. Dumbledore isn't supposed to know about the Room of Requirement. You know, he mentions it to Harry in Goblet of Fire that he's walking down a corridor looking for a toilet and then suddenly he finds one. Was that just him giving Harry a little hint about the room he did already know about, or was that again another continuity error? We see a young Grindelwald and Dumbledore, and as I said in my original review, I love that. They cut the hands, went like that, and I like that for the thousands and thousands and thousands of people who complained that there was no gay representation for Dumbledore in the original series. Like, just saying that Dumbledore's gay doesn't mean that he is gay. You just made that up after you made the series to try and be more relatable and whatever. But then my defence for that, by the way, is the fact that it wasn't a story about Dumbledore's gay relationship. It wasn't a story about who Dumbledore was in love with, or it wasn't a story about love at all. Not romantic love, anyway. And it's the same with the Fantastic Beasts series. It's not about love, you know. So we have this little 5-second clip of them holding hands, just kind of reveals or confirms that Dumbledore was in love with Grindelwald and they made this blood oath. So yeah, they made a blood oath not to fight each other, which is all fine and good, although I personally don't think it's needed, because just the simple fact that they're in love with each other anyway should be enough to not want to fight each other. But also it brings on another continuity error, another problem, the fact that they made a blood oath when we already know that they duelled each other after they had supposedly made this blood oath. Grindelwald, Albus and Aberforth all duelling each other, and it kind of resulted in Ariana's death. Nobody knows who did the spell that caused Ariana's death. That was a thing that was haunting Dumbledore about his sister for all of his life. If they have already duelled, then how is there a blood oath? There's absolutely no way they would have made that blood oath after Ariana's death. And yeah, it may not have been one of those spells that ended up killing Ariana. She could have done it herself, because it's now heavily hinted that she was an Obscurus. It's not been confirmed, but and maybe it was her transforming into an Obscurus that made everyone kind of start fighting. I just had my own little revelation. What if they weren't dueling each other? What if they were kind of trying to stop Ariana's Obscurus form from wreaking havoc? That could kind of explain the whole blood oath thing. I can't remember where it's revealed that they had this duel, or maybe they did start off like fighting and that stressed out Ariana and she turned into an Obscurus, and then they all kind of like, I don't know, calm the situation down, and Ariana ends up dead and they don't know who killed her. Anyway, back to the film. We see flashbacks from Lita Lestrange, and at once I'm thinking, well, what is the point of these, especially since Lita dies at the end of the film? Like, why do we need to know a bit of her backstory if she ends up dying anyway? But apparently we may find out more about Lita in later films, but then I think, well, what's the point if she's dead? We find out that she was bullied at school, but, you know, she gave as good as she got. She was friends with Newt, and then there's the whole boggart scene. We see Newt's boggart, which is really fun, I guess, and we also see Lita's boggart, and, you know, it's a bit of a mystery at first, but then we realise it's foreshadowing the end of the film when she reveals about her brother. But again, was that actually needed in the film? Did we need that bit of foreshadowing? Did we need to find out what Newt's boggart was? I mean, it was just a bit of fun, really, wasn't it? And again, Dumbledore's teaching DADA. We go back to Queenie at Grindelwald's hideout. She sees Grindelwald and Grindelwald's like, we want the same things as you. You just want to be free. You want to be free to love. And she's like, you know, kind of see her mind working like. But also, she could also be using legilimens on him and reading his mind and like listening to what he's really thinking. And, you know, maybe at that time he's being genuine about what he's saying to her. Or maybe she was given some sort of potion when she was drinking that tea, or, you know, she was cursed. And that's why she turns to Grindelwald. I personally think that she did it on her own accord. Anyway, back to Paris, we go to Nicholas Flamel's house. Newt manages to get this parasite out of Karma's eye and he stays unconscious. Tina runs off, Newt runs after her. Karma has escaped. I'm kind of going through this kind of really quickly now. We see Nicholas Flamel. He shows Jacob a crystal ball which reveals the Lestrange cemetery, and he sees that Queenie's there, so he runs off to try and find Queenie. Flamel looks on and discovers that someone ends up being dead. He opens this cabinet and, you know, there, nice and conveniently, is the Philosopher's Stone. We were also all thinking, oh, Nicholas Flamel is in this film. We have to see the Philosopher's Stone. We want to see the Philosopher's Stone. And so we got to see the Philosopher's Stone. And what do we get? People complaining. Oh, there's the Philosopher's Stone. He gets up this book and it has pictures in them. I think he originally goes to Dumbledore, but Dumbledore's one is emptying. Then he goes to this wizard who is a teacher at Ilvermorny, and he tells him, you know, there's going to be trouble, someone's going to end up dying, and he's like, well, why don't you go? You know, you haven't seen battle in 200 years, so what? Do it anyway, you'll be fine. What use that was, I don't know. Maybe it was just to tell the people in America what's going on. I don't know. Newt and Tina end up at the French Ministry of Magic. Somehow Newt knows that there's this box in the French Ministry of Magic that would reveal who Credence really is. How Newt knows that and Tina doesn't, I don't know. I'm confused about that. I would have thought for sure Tina would know that and not Newt. Why does Newt know that? Plot convenience, you know, one of them had to know. Anyway, they go to the French Ministry of Magic. They pretend that they are Lita and Theseus. They get into this records place. But Lita comes, she finds the strange bit. You know, all that stuff that happens in there. You know, they get away from those, like, demon cat things. Matagots. They manage to get away by using the Zulu, which, you know, very convenient that Newt gets the Zulu earlier on in the film so he can use the Zulu to escape, which is cool. You know, I accept that. That's cool. Yeah, so they get to the cemetery, the Lestrange cemetery. Lita finds Karma trying to attack Credence. Nagini is trying to stop him. Karma reveals all this stuff about how his mother was kind of kidnapped by magic by Corvus Lestrange Sr., I think. She gives birth to Lita Lestrange but dies after her birth. Corvus Sr. doesn't love Lita because obviously he wants a son, so he manages to remarry someone else, and then she gives birth to Corvus Lestrange Jr. But he has become aware that Corvus may be in danger. Yusuf Karma, he made an unbreakable vow with his dad that he will destroy the thing Corvus Sr. loves the most, which is Corvus Jr. Corvus Sr. sends Lita and Corvus Jr. to America via a ship. Lita is with the crying Corvus and she swaps the babies over. Corvus ends up drowning. Credence is the one that is saved and they go to America. Why they end up being separated after that, by the way, I don't know. So no, Credence is not a Lestrange. We go to the underground amphitheatre thing where Grindelwald has given out his speech. Some people join him, like Queenie. I wasn't surprised about. That was a bit of a heartbreaking scene between her and Jacob, but yeah, I wasn't surprised that she ended up joining his side. The only way she can get what she truly wants, she thinks, is by joining Grindelwald, and the same with Credence. The thing he wants more than anything else, he feels that Grindelwald is the only person who can give that to him. Lita Lestrange, at first it looks like she's going to join him, and that kind of would have made sense because of her kind of dodgy childhood, but it ends up that she doesn't. She sacrifices herself, I guess, I don't know, but she ends up dying anyway. And they all pull together to get rid of the big fire thing. And then at the end, Grindelwald, he tells Credence that he is Aurelius Dumbledore. Am I pronouncing that right? At first I'm like, holy crap, but now 1 week on I'm thinking, no, I don't believe that whatsoever. It's a bit annoying with the whole Phoenix being there, because Phoenixes come to the Dumbledores when they're at desperate need for them, and you know, a Phoenix has come to Credence, which makes it look like that, yeah, Credence could be a part of the Dumbledore family, but ultimately I don't think that's right. I think the only reason Grindelwald said that to Credence was because then it would give him motive to want to kill Dumbledore. As we established earlier, Grindelwald wanted Credence to kill Dumbledore because he was the only other person strong enough to be able to do that. So I think that's the reason why he told him that. Who Credence really is, I don't know. I do still like the idea that he could secretly be Grindelwald's son, but at the moment I am absolutely 100% convinced that Credence is not a Dumbledore, and that's not me saying J.K. Rowling did a shoddy bit of storytelling there. That's me saying, yep, she intended on Grindelwald saying that he was a Dumbledore when actually Grindelwald is lying. That's the end. I have no idea how long this video is going to go on for. My ultimate thoughts about the Crimes of Grindelwald film: I like the film. Reading the screenplay has really helped with that. It's really helped me distinguish between the good parts about it and the bad parts about it. I'm not just seeing it as an overall not so good film anymore. I'm now seeing it as a good film for Harry Potter fans, but there are just some things in it that do not make sense and are massive continuity errors, and you know, they're the things that people are concentrating on, rightly so, as being massive issues about the film and why they don't like it and why it's such a bad film. It's not as good as the first Fantastic Beasts in my opinion. It was never going to be the best Harry Potter related film anyway. It's definitely just a setup film, a filler film. You know, there are more important things and revelations and events and things happening in the later films. We know it's going to finish in 1945, which is when the second battle ends and when Dumbledore and Grindelwald have their massive battle. So yeah, it's not going to be the greatest Fantastic Beasts film. It's not that they are all going to be separate. You definitely have to have watched the first one, and you definitely have to be an actual Harry Potter fan to appreciate some of the things in this film and to understand some of the things as well. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there now because this is already so long and this took so long to plan as well. I definitely recommend reading the screenplay if you haven't, you know, because you see little bits of details that you don't actually know from the film. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this whole thing. If you have actually made it this far in the video, then why not comment down below for the greater good. My second battery while filming this video has now died, so instead of putting it back on the tripod, I'm just going to quickly sign off holding the camera. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a massive thumbs up. That would mean a lot to me, especially seeing how long it is. If you're new to my channel and you haven't already, then please don't forget to subscribe to join my little magical corner. I make videos every single week, so come and subscribe to join the fun. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.